The Airbus A380 didn't just break records, it shattered them into pieces. Wings so big they needed special roads, a plane so quiet neighbors couldn't hear it, and a jet that almost bankrupted an entire company. These are 20 weird facts about the Airbus A380, and the bonus. Let's just say this giant was too big for its own good. Strap in, this double-decker ride is about to get wild. On September 29, 2006, an A380 suffered a terrifying engine explosion during a test flight over the Atlantic Ocean. The plane was flying near the coast of Iceland when engine number 2 suddenly exploded. Metal pieces flew off and damaged the wing, cutting hydraulic lines and fuel systems. Test pilot Claude Lelay kept his cool and flew the damaged plane for several more hours. They dumped thousands of gallons of fuel over the ocean to make the plane lighter for landing. The explosion left a hole in the wing big enough for a person to climb through. Emergency crews waited at the airport expecting the worst crash. Lelay landed the plane safely and everyone walked away without injuries. Investigators found that a manufacturing defect in the engine caused the explosion. Rolls-Royce had to fix the engine design on every A380 already built. The incident delayed the A380 delivery schedule by several months and cost millions. Cost $500 million. A brand new A380 cost about $445 to $500 million depending on customization and options. That's more expensive than most people will earn in 100 lifetimes of work. The price includes the basic plane, engines, and standard interior configuration. Airlines spend another $50 to $100 million customizing the interior with seats and entertainment. Emirates reportedly spent over $600 million per plane with all their luxury additions included, just the paint job. Costs about $300,000 and takes 3 weeks to complete. The engines alone cost about $25 million each, and the plane needs 4 of them. Maintaining an A380 costs airlines about $25 to $30 million per year. Insurance for one plane can cost several million dollars annually. The high cost meant only the richest airlines could afford to buy and operate the A380. The A380 can fly up to 9,000 miles without stopping to refuel at all. That's far enough to fly from New York City to Hong Kong in one continuous flight. Singapore Airlines operates the longest A380 flight from Singapore to Los Angeles, lasting over 17 hours. Passengers spend almost an entire day sitting on the same plane crossing the Pacific Ocean. The plane maintains a cruising speed of about 560 miles per hour at 43,000 feet altitude. The long range makes the A380 perfect for connecting distant cities without stops. Emirates uses A380s to fly non-stop from Dubai to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and other distant cities. The fuel efficiency improves on longer flights because takeoff and landing use the most fuel. Pilots and crew work in shifts on these ultra-long flights to stay fresh. Passengers can sleep, eat multiple meals, watch several movies, and still be flying when they wake up. The Airbus A380 is the biggest passenger plane ever built in the entire history of aviation. It can carry 853 people if you pack them in like sardines in a can. That's more people than live in some small towns across America. Some airlines turned the upper deck into luxury apartments with beds, showers, and bars. Emirates Airline put a full shower spa in first class where you can actually take a hot shower at 40,000 feet in the air. Singapore Airlines installed private suites with double beds and 32-inch TV screens bigger than most bedrooms. Etihad Airways created a 3-room apartment called The Residence that cost over $30,000 for one ticket. The plane has 2 full levels of passengers stacked on top of each other like a flying apartment building. Walking through the A380 feels like walking through a luxury hotel floating in the sky. No other plane in history has ever offered this level of crazy luxury and space for passengers. Too big for most airports. The A380 is so massive that most airports in the world can't even handle it landing there. The wingspan stretches 261 feet from tip to tip, which is wider than a football field is long. Airport gates had to be completely rebuilt and made bigger just to fit this giant plane. Runways needed to be strengthened because the plane weighs over 1.2 million pounds when fully loaded. Taxiways had to be widened so the wings wouldn't hit buildings or other planes parked nearby. Los Angeles International Airport spent over $100 million just to modify their airport for the A380. Heathrow Airport in London built an entire new terminal just for this plane. Only about 140 airports in the whole world can actually handle an A380 landing and taking off. The plane is so wide that special trucks had to be designed to tow it around the airport. Even the jet bridges that connect to the doors had to be completely redesigned and rebuilt. Wings made in Britain. The massive wings are are built in Broughton, Wales by thousands of British workers in a giant factory. Each wing is so incredibly huge that they can't fit on regular roads to transport them. Airbus had to build special roads and modify highways just to move the wings to the port. They transport the wings on a special barge ship across the ocean to France for final assembly. The wings are so long that they have to close down entire highways and remove traffic lights temporarily. Police escort the wing convoy through towns in the middle of the night when nobody is driving. The journey from Wales to France takes several days. Oh, of careful, slow movement. Each wing weighs about 35 tons, which is heavier than 10 full-grown elephants combined. The wings are made of incredibly advanced materials including carbon fiber and aluminum alloys. Over 1,500 people work just on building the wings in the Welsh factory every single day. Quietest jumbo jet ever. Despite being absolutely massive, the A380 is actually the quietest large plane ever built in history. People living near airports complained less about noise after the A380 started flying regularly. The engines are designed with special noise-reducing technology that makes them whisper instead of roar. On the ground, the A380 is 4 times quieter than the Boeing 747 during takeoff. Inside the cabin, passengers can barely hear the engines running at all during cruise. You can have a normal conversation without raising your voice even sitting near the engines. Airbus spent millions of dollars researching how to make the plane quieter for communities near airports. The wings are designed to reduce the whooshing sound of air flowing over them. Special materials in the cabin walls absorb sound instead of letting it through. Flight attendants say it's the quietest plane they've ever worked on in their entire careers. Takes 3 years to build. One building a single A380 from start to finish takes approximately 3 full years of work. The different sections are built in 4 different countries at the same time. Workers in France, Germany, Spain, and Britain each build their assigned section separately. The nose section is built in France and takes 6 months to complete by itself. The wings in Wales take over a year to manufacture and test thoroughly. Special ships and trucks transport all the huge sections to Toulouse, France for final assembly. The final assembly building is so enormous that it's one of the largest buildings in Europe. Over 1,500 workers swarm over each plane during final assembly, connecting millions of parts. Installing all the wiring alone takes several months of careful, detailed work. Testing every system before the first flight takes another 6 months minimum. By the time an A380 rolls out, thousands of people have touched it across 3 years. The A380 is made up of over 4 million individual parts from 1,500 companies around the world. If you counted one part every second without stopping, it would take 46 days to count them all. The parts come from over 30 different countries across 4 continents. Germany builds the entire body section, Spain makes the tail, and France does final assembly in Toulouse. The supply chain is so complicated that one delayed part can shut down the whole production line. Airbus uses special computer systems to track every single part from creation to installation. Each part has a unique number and complete history of where it came from. Over 10,000 people work directly on building each A380 from start to finish. The logistics of getting all the parts to the right place at the right time is incredibly complex. Just the cockpit alone contains over 500,000 individual parts and components working together perfectly. Wings flex like crazy. The wings on the A380 are so long that they flex and bend up to 13 feet during flight. That's taller than 2 grown adults standing on each other's shoulders. Engineers designed them to flex on purpose because rigid wings would snap off from the stress. During a test in 2006, they bent the wings upward until they pointed almost straight up at the sky. The wings bent over 25 feet before they finally broke during the extreme stress test. Passengers sitting by the window can actually watch the wings flex up and down during turbulence. The wings are designed to handle forces equivalent to 2.5 times the plane's total weight. In rough weather, the wing tips can move up and down several feet constantly. This flexing actually helps the plane fly more efficiently and saves fuel during long flights. The carbon fiber and aluminum construction allows this flexibility without weakening the wing structure at all. Holds 84,600 gallons of fuel. The A380 can hold an absolutely incredible 84,600 gallons of jet fuel in its tanks. That's enough fuel to fill 1,350 bathtubs completely to the top with fuel. A regular car could drive to the moon and back with that much gas. The fuel weighs over 560,000 pounds, which is heavier than 50 full-grown elephants. The plane burns through about 5 gallons of fuel every single second during flight. On a typical flight from Dubai to Los Angeles, it uses about 60,000 gallons of fuel. The fuel tanks are built into the wings, body, and tail section of the plane. Special computers constantly move fuel between tanks to keep the plane perfectly balanced during flight. Filling up an A380 takes about 3 hours using multiple fuel trucks at the same time. The cost to fill the tanks completely can be over $200,000 depending on fuel prices. The A380 has the biggest windows of any commercial airliner flying today. Each window is over 11 inches tall, which is about 30% bigger than most plane windows. Passengers get incredible views of the clouds, ocean, and land below during flight. The windows have special coatings to block harmful UV rays from the sun. They're made of multiple layers of acrylic and glass for strength and insulation. The larger windows make the cabin feel less cramped and more open for passengers. Airbus spent years researching the perfect window size for passenger comfort and safety. The windows can withstand a pressure difference of over 8 pounds per square inch. Each window is tested individually before being installed in the plane. The bigger windows also let more natural light into the cabin during daytime flights. The staircase is massive. Each A380 has 2 wide staircases connecting the lower and upper decks inside the cabin. The staircases are wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side comfortably. They curve elegantly and are decorated beautifully by different airlines with fancy materials. Emirates covered their staircases in wood paneling and soft lighting like a fancy hotel. Some airlines put art and decorations on the walls next to the stairs. The staircases are located at the front and rear of the plane for passenger flow. During boarding, passengers walk up the stairs and feel like they're entering something special. The staircases have to be incredibly strong to handle thousands of people walking up and down. Each staircase is tested to hold the weight of 50 people standing on it at once. The design had to meet strict safety codes for emergency evacuations during crashes. First flight in 2005. The very first A380 took off for its maiden flight on April 27, 2005 from Toulouse, France. Over 50,000 people gathered at the airport to watch history being made that day. Test pilots Jacques Crozet and Claude Lelay flew the plane for 3 hours and 54 minutes. The giant plane lifted off the runway and climbed gracefully into the clear blue sky. People cheered and cried as the massive plane flew overhead for the first time ever. The test flight reached an altitude of 10,000 feet and a speed of 300 miles per hour. Everything worked perfectly and the plane landed smoothly back in Toulouse. French President Jacques Chirac attended the celebration after the successful landing. Airbus executives celebrated like they had just won the World Cup. The test flight proved that such a huge plane could actually fly safely and efficiently. News cameras from around the world broadcast the historic moment live on television. Singapore got first delivery. Singapore Airlines became the first airline to fly the A380, with paying passengers on October 25, 2007. The inaugural flight went from Singapore to Sydney, Australia, with 455 excited passengers. People paid up to $100,000 at charity auctions just to be on that first flight. The cabin featured luxury suites, fancy seats, and incredible service for the historic journey. Singapore Airlines spent millions decorating the plane to impress passengers and the media. Flight SQ380 took off exactly on time, and the flight went perfectly smooth. Passengers on board said it felt like flying in a quiet, smooth hotel in the sky. The plane landed in Sydney, where thousands of people waited to see it arrive. The A380 changed Singapore Airlines' reputation and made them the most prestigious airline. Other airlines rushed to order their own A380s after seeing the success and publicity. As a full bar upstairs, Emirates Airline installed a full cocktail bar and lounge on the upper deck for business class passengers. The bar has curved walls, mood lighting, and comfortable seats for socializing. Passengers can order drinks and snacks while standing at the bar like a real pub. The lounge area has large windows with incredible views of the sky and clouds. Other passengers walk past jealously on their way to the bathroom. The bar became one of the most photographed features of any airline in the world. Emirates uses the bar in all their advertising to show off the luxury. Flight attendants working the bar are specially trained as bartenders and servers. The bar can hold about 8 to 10 people comfortably at one time. Some passengers spend hours at the bar instead of sitting in their seats. The feature made Emirates' A380 the most desired plane to fly on for travelers worldwide. almost killed Airbus. The A380 program almost completely bankrupted Airbus and destroyed the company forever. The project went massively over budget by billions of euros that nobody expected. Airbus originally estimated the development would cost 11 billion euros in the year 2000. By 2006, the real cost had exploded to over 18 billion euros and kept growing. Delivery delays forced airlines to cancel orders and demand compensation for losses. The stock price of the parent company Airbus dropped by 26% in a single day. Thousands of workers lost their jobs in cost-cutting measures across Europe. Executives resigned in shame as the problems kept getting worse every month. The wiring problems alone caused a 2-year delay that cost billions in penalties. Airbus had to borrow massive amounts of money just to keep the program alive. The company didn't break even on the A380 until 2015, almost a decade after the first delivery. Many experts said Airbus would never fully recover the investment. Can evacuate in 90 seconds. Even though it holds over 500 people, the A380 can evacuate everyone in just 90 seconds during an emergency. Aviation rules require all planes to evacuate in under 90 seconds to be certified safe. In March 2006, Airbus conducted a full evacuation test with 853 volunteers and 20 crew members. They filled the plane completely in darkness with half the emergency exits deliberately blocked. Everyone had to evacuate using only half the available doors and slides. Some volunteers were elderly, some were children, and some pretended to have disabilities. The entire plane emptied in just 78 seconds, beating the requirement easily. Volunteers slid down the emergency slides in the dark, and some got minor bruises. The test proved that even fully loaded, the A380 could evacuate safely. The slides are enormous and can handle heavy loads of people sliding down rapidly. Each door has multiple slides that inflate automatically in seconds during emergencies. Wings are self-healing. The A380 wings contain a self-healing system that can detect and seal small cracks automatically. Sensors throughout the wings constantly monitor for any damage or stress during flight. If a tiny crack starts forming, the system detects it immediately. Special materials in the wing can expand slightly to seal small cracks before they grow. The system alerts pilots and maintenance crews about any damage found. This technology was completely revolutionary when Airbus introduced it in the A380. The self-healing feature has prevented several potential disasters during the plane's service. Engineers borrowed the idea from human skin, which heals itself after small cuts. The wings also have backup structures, so even if one part fails, others take the load. This redundancy makes the A380 one of the safest planes ever built in aviation history. Maintenance crews can inspect and repair issues before they become serious problems. Production ended. In 2021, Airbus announced on February 14th, 2019, that they would stop building the A380 forever. The last A380 was delivered to Emirates on December 16th, 2021, ending 14 years of production. Airbus only built 251 A380s total, which was far less than the 1,200 they originally predicted. Airlines stopped ordering the plane because it was too big and too expensive to operate profitably. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 killed any remaining demand for giant planes carrying 500 plus people. Smaller, more fuel-efficient twin-engine planes became more popular with airlines worldwide. The A380 couldn't compete economically despite being loved by passengers everywhere. The end of production was a sad day for aviation fans around the world. Thousands of workers in France, Germany, Britain, and Spain lost their jobs. The production line in Toulouse shut down forever, and the factory was converted for other planes. Aviation experts called the A380 a beautiful mistake that was too ambitious for the market. Bonus fact, only 14 airlines bought it. Despite all the hype and publicity, only 14 airlines in the entire world ever ordered the A380. Airbus originally predicted that over 100 airlines would buy the plane. Emirates became the biggest customer by far, ordering 123 planes, which was almost half of all A380s built. Most airlines looked at the numbers and decided the plane was too big and risky. American Airlines never ordered a single A380 because they preferred smaller, flexible planes. The giant plane needed to be almost completely full on every flight just to break even. If the plane wasn't at least 80% full, airlines lost money on every single flight. The A380 was designed for a hub and spoke model that became outdated. Airlines switched to point-to-point flights with smaller planes that made more money. The failure to attract more customers ultimately killed the program. Airbus learned an expensive lesson about building planes that airlines actually want versus versus engineering marvels. From self-healing wings to flying hotels in the sky, the Airbus A380 proved that bigger isn't always better in business. This magnificent giant changed luxury flying forever, but couldn't survive in a world that wanted efficiency over size. If you learned something incredible today that changed how you see aviation, smash that like button and subscribe for more facts that'll take your knowledge to new heights.